I feel like the NBA media always gives the Utah Jazz the benefit of the doubt because Danny Ainge, their president of basketball operations, has been one of the best executives in recent memory when he ran the Boston Celtics. But I just think that they continuously do things that make no sense. I know they just fired their GM and they hired Austin Ainge, who's Danny Ainge's son, and he apparently doesn't make the decisions day to day. But this trade is just another example of why I don't really get anything they do. They traded Colin Sexton for Yusuf Nurkic. They had to include a second-round pick to get off of Colin Sexton's contract, I guess. But they're both expiring, and Nurkic makes more money than Colin Sexton. And he's right now a worse player, an older player, a broken-down player. And obviously, the Jazz just drafted Walter Clayton, and they already have a few guards, so they want to clear up some minutes. So I understand it from that perspective. But at some point, Colin Sexton had to have had trade value over the last 2 years. Now, look, the league has shown it doesn't really value these small point guard slash shooting guards, kind of combo guard-ish guys who aren't great playmakers and are liabilities on defense. We just saw it with Anthony Simons getting traded. We see it time and time again. Jordan Poole got salary dumped. But Sexton is like a really good shooter, a very good athlete, someone who can at least get you buckets in a pinch. He's more of a bench guard, but he's not a bad player on the whole. He's a fine player. And Nurkic, while he did have a pretty good NBA career, is just not good anymore. He's always injured, and he's just not quite the player that he once was. Every year, it feels like we hear about how the Jazz crushed the draft. I know that we got it again this year because they got Ace Bailey, who fell to them at 5, and they took Walter Clayton, who I actually really like as a prospect and think he was good for where they got him. But I just feel like the results have not been there at all. They're going into year 4 of a rebuild since they traded Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert, and they've continuously been one of the worst teams in the NBA that hasn't gotten lottery luck, decided not to pull the cord early enough to go for Victor Wembanyama in the 2023 draft, continuously have missed on top 10 picks with Cody Williams and potentially Taylor Hendricks, and even though that one might be a little bit injury-related, at a certain point, you got to start hitting on picks. And if they trade Walker Kessler, like, who's their best young player under 25? I genuinely don't. Kyle Filipowski, Isaiah Collier, I guess one of the guys they just drafted. It just feels like by year 4 of a rebuild, you should have a lot more than what Utah has. And it feels like Danny Ainge specifically has always been someone who doesn't want to, quote-unquote, lose a trade. And that just results in trades like this that don't really make any sense, and I don't really know what Utah's doing. Obviously, they're probably going to try to tank again because they have to this upcoming season. A year ago on my podcast, I did this episode where we talked about how bad the rebuild is for the Jazz. And we got a ton of pushback from people, but I feel like this is, like, they've been rebuilding for half a